Thank you.
Connie Fishman, Toby Pierce, and the Friends staff deserve our gratitude for leading the campaign as well. Now that all the funding has been secured, Olin has begun the final design push needed to ready the plans for public procurement this spring. We expect to have final construction documents by March, after which the trust will issue a construction RFP with the goal of starting the science play area construction later in 2022. Are there any questions on design and construction matters thus far? Okay. The Trust River Project team has had a busy fall, hosting 3 large public events, each with great success. This year's Submerge Marine Science Festival was held as a 3-day event in mid-October and took place both in person and virtually. Over 3,500 individuals participated, 2,670 of whom were local students, with many teachers incorporating Submerge into their official fall curricula. Many schools brought multiple classes and tuned in multiple days. Prior to the event, our River Project staff spent weeks working with partner organizations to involve them in programming. For example, the New York Aquarium focused on Atlantic sturgeon, and Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory offered a powerful presentation explaining sea level rise. This year's program also included a series of engaging panel discussions and live performances and involved collaborators like NYU and Killer Snails. For each event, staff made efforts to find ways to elevate the voices and experiences of students. Additionally, the public also joined us in person for wet lab look-ins, Thai deck tours, and Celebrate oyster programs. Following Submerge, the River Project team was thrilled to bring back the popular Release of the Fishes event in person at the Pier 40 Wet Lab. Students and visitors of all ages, including our incoming council member, Eric Botcher, helped return fish and invertebrates to the Hudson River, ensuring that animals' behaviors are minimally impacted during the changing seasons. And to close out the season, we hosted our annual Pumpkin Smash on Pier 84. 1,115 pounds of pumpkins were smashed, diverting seasonal organic waste from landfills and educating our park community about composting. Beyond programming over the last year, the Trust River Project team has considered ways to expand accessibility to our educational programming. One interesting initiative is our effort to translate educational lessons and materials into multiple languages. A current focus is our popular STEM at Home activity series, which invites students to engage with the Hudson River from anywhere through hands-on experiences and projects using common household materials. Over the past year, we've worked with a number of corporate volunteer groups, largely recruited through Hudson River Park Friends, to translate these lessons into Spanish, Portuguese, Polish, Korean, Hindi, Mandarin, and Russian. To date, 12 lessons in Spanish have been posted to our website, with additional lessons in other languages soon to follow. Beyond written translation, we also continue to offer ASL and captioned videos for our virtual events, including for the Submerge Festival. This fall, Hudson River Park Friends received 2 grant awards that will support additional River Project initiatives. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation is providing funding that will enable us to purchase and deploy an autonomous aqua drone called a waste shark, which is designed to collect floating debris in the water while simultaneously gathering geospatial and water quality information. Our River Project team scouted and researched this little robot prior to COVID, and it's exciting to think about being able to deploy it in 2022. Aside from collecting plastic debris, we believe it will help us engage volunteers and students about plastic pollution and contribute to the park's ongoing research. The other award is from the Hyatt and Watson Foundation to help us install water quality data displays. The displays will feature the park's new River Health dashboard and communicate Hudson River's water quality data to park patrons, boaters, and students. The Hyde and Watson grant builds off work accomplished through the 2020 Innovate for Social Impact Award from Cantina, a highly regarded design innovation agency that, among other things, works with organizations to design user-friendly experiences involving complex technology. Through Cantina, the Trust has created a river health model and dashboard that will support the park's stewardship and environmental education efforts, while also helping non-motorized boaters make informed decisions about days when water quality conditions are poor. We invite you to explore the new dashboard on our website to learn more about physical and environmental factors affecting our local water environment. The park is grateful to all its project partners, especially Cantina, Dr. Wade McGillis at Columbia University, New York State DEC, U.S. Geological Survey, and New York City Water Trail Association for helping to make the park's continuous water quality data more accessible and relevant to the public at large. At a future meeting, with time permitting, we'd love to guide you through the model that was created for this dashboard in more detail. Our Public Programs Department has also concluded a very successful 2021 season that featured the transition of programs from virtual back to carefully designed in-person programming as the summer progressed. Patrons and visitors took full advantage of the Healthy on Hudson exercise programs along with the participatory dance and certainly enjoyed the reemergence of live music performances. The department is now planning for 2022. As noted in your board materials, we hope to bring back the Hudson River Dance Festival, produced in collaboration with the Joyce Theater in June in Chelsea. In August, we're already looking forward to hosting the Best Blues Barbecue Festival in New York City, this time at Pier 76. We've issued a request for proposals for a producer for that event, so you'll be hearing more about it in early 2022. We're also already fielding questions and calls about guest events throughout the park. Any questions at this point?
Noreen, it's so amazing all that the park is doing on science and the estuary and really, teaching people about the river. And I just hope that will be on the agenda to make that even better known, because I feel like the park isn't getting enough credit for all that it's doing on that. It's just not, it's not well enough known, is my fear, is that we, and I assume that that's going to be part of what Robert Atterbury will be doing, but I think we're doing so many tremendous things in that area, and I wish more people knew about it.
Thank you for that. I agree. And our staff tries very hard to get the word out. And I think we've made some progress. So for example, this year we got a few calls from reporters asking us about observations about wildlife that they were seeing in New York. And they were calling us as a reference point, which never used to happen. So that was exciting to see, and that is a form of progress. But there's, as you say, there's so much that we do with so many different types of audiences, so many public school students served, the general public as well. And it's I think it is a distinguishing aspect of Hudson River Park. So I'm with you. Anyone else before I continue? Okay. Your board packet includes the 6-month financials for fiscal year 2022. Kim Quinones, our CFO, and Sikander Zuberi, Vice President of Finance, presented the financials to the directors of the Finance and Investment Committee meeting held on November 15th. So the 6-month financials have also been posted on the financial and budget information page of the Trust website for the public to view. As noted in the financial report, the Trust recorded total operating revenues of $18.8 million and operating expenses, net of reimbursable expenses, of $10.6 million, for a surplus of $8.1 million before capital expenditures for the first 6 months of the fiscal year. Revenues were 67% and expenses were 42% of budgeted amounts for the full year. Directors will recall that the current budget was prepared with conservative assumptions given the continuing impacts of COVID on many of our tenants. While revenues are better at this time than budgeted, they are still down as compared to pre-pandemic levels. Spending for capital improvements and equipment totaled $13.8 million, or 40% of the amount budgeted for the full fiscal year, but capital spending is expected to increase during the second half of the fiscal year due to all of the construction contracts that are now approved. In addition, since the September 2021 board meeting, the Trust has received an additional $438,436 in reimbursements from FEMA related to Sandy repairs. The total amount received to date is over $32 million, with approximately $1.8 million pending review with FEMA. I'd like to thank Owen Davies for continuing to spearhead the FEMA coordination process for us. Are there any questions on the 6-month financials or comments from the committee members? Okay. Again, at this time of year, although we're very pleased with the effort made by the Office of General Services and its insurance broker Gallagher in minimizing the increase to the extent possible, I unfortunately have to inform you of another large increase in our general liability insurance premium. In a nutshell, the premium for our $100 million of general liability coverage increased by 16.6% as compared to the previous year. Specifically, the premium increased from approximately $5.64 million in 2021 to just over $6.5 million for the policy period between December 1st, 2021 to November 30th, 2022. Part of the increase is due to the large amount of construction underway this year. For this reason, the trust had to separate liability coverage for park operations from construction coverage. Thus, for the new term, Brit, a Lloyd's of London carrier, is providing the primary coverage for claims against the trust and its service contractors, and K2, an Allied World affiliate, is providing the primary coverage for claims made related to construction projects. The deductible for claims will remain at $25,000 with an annual cap of $150,000 for both. Pursuant to the Act, the state and city share the cost of the trust's general liability, with the state paying 65% and the city 35%. Are there any questions on insurance? The Governance Committee met on November 29th, 2021 to consider the transparency plan dated October 2021, which was prepared in response to a statewide request from Governor Hochul. The trust has posted its plan on the trust website. While the trust already posts a great deal of financial and other information on its website, moving forward, we will be posting additional information and accelerating the pace at which it is posted as well. For example, staff will post the list of selected vendors approved by the board for various procurements to the bids and business opportunities portion of the website to make it easier for the public to find out which vendor was selected for particular competitive procurements. Reports like this President's Report will also be posted as part of the draft minutes so that the public does not have to wait until the next board meeting for the official minutes to be adopted. Further, staff will form a subcommittee to review our website every 6 months to identify potential areas for improvement, and will meet with the Governance Committee annually to discuss any updates or ideas related to the Trust Transparency Plan. The Governance Committee also discussed adopting a policy to create a formal review procedure for requests to install monuments in the park. The policy would require board approval for large-scale monuments that occupy a large footprint or could create a change to surrounding uses, and would further identify the criteria to be considered for such installations. The criteria could include such considerations as whether the monument is appropriate for the proposed location, is compatible with the surrounding park context, or interferes with park functions or impacts park safety. The board's design committee would review the proposal for aesthetics and to ensure it either does not impose significant maintenance costs related to its care or comes with an endowment to cover such costs, or anything in between. The review process, as discussed by the Governance Committee, would include review by the Trust Design Committee, as well as public review through the local community board and/or advisory council. Based on feedback from the Governance Committee, I intend to share a draft policy with the directors for review, after which staff would present the final policy for board review and approval at the January board meeting. Any questions? During the executive session portion of the recent Finance Committee meeting, we provided an update on lease negotiations with Chelsea Piers. We're close to the finish line. Once we reach agreement on the few remaining items, we will share the proposed lease with the board, after which time the proposed lease will be subject to public review through the Trust Significant Action process, which will include a public hearing and comment period. As is our practice, we will also meet with the Advisory Council and again with Community Board 4 to answer questions. At Pier 57, I'm happy to announce that the exterior perimeter walkway opened to the public in November. It's already been noticed by some walkers and joggers and provides lovely views of the Hudson River, Little Island to the south, and Chelsea Piers to the north. The public rooftop park is projected to open in April. Google is planning to start moving into its offices at Pier 57 in January, and the public marketplace, park environmental classrooms, and public living room are expected to open later in 2022. Are there any questions on Chelsea Piers or Pier 57? Okay, last, I hope you will join me, I'm not sure if she's still on, in thanking Deborah Kuska, the park's longtime vice president of operations, for her tremendous service and contributions to the park. Deborah is leaving us, but not the state family. She's headed to one of our sister agencies for a position with even greater responsibility. Deborah worked on the Route 9A landscape design and bikeway issues before joining the park, so she's one of the very few who's watched the whole park take shape and grow up. She has an astonishing eye for detail, and we've relied on her to help us solve countless issues, including many related to safety and circulation, coordination with both the city and state departments of transportation, large and small events planning, and so many other things. We will miss Deborah, but we are very, very pleased for her that she will get to put her enormous experience to great public use. Deb, are you on? I know she had another commitment that she couldn't get out of. Okay, well, please join me in thanking her. And that's the end of my report.
Please let her know that we join you in thanking her, and
I will.
look forward to seeing all the good she will do in her next position. But any questions or comments for Noreen? Okay, thank you. And I will now ask Jeffrey Lefrancois to present the Advisory Council report. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, everybody. Happy holiday season. I do want to give a shout out to Deb with all my multiple hats of how great it has been to work with her, and Noreen knows that. So onward she goes, and it's been great working with her. With regards to the Advisory Council, we held a pretty significant meeting last month where we invited state and city DOT to attend. We provided them with a long list of questions in advance of the meeting, and had a really productive back and forth throughout. We were absolutely delighted to have both agencies there at the city and state level, that they had just had discussions in advance of the meeting. And most of it was about safety, about access to the park, about the Greenway in particular, what the state and city management of 9A and the relationship between city and state there, who we talk to when we want something changed. It was really meant to be a real big learning process, and it was. And as a part of that, we're sort of going to continue our advocacy to continue pushing for an expanded Greenway, because we see it as a critical need given the changes in mobility around the city of New York and the greater need for micromobility, protected micromobility modes of areas of transit. This is a key way for that. And so understanding how the Advisory Council could advocate for that was a big part of this. Second was understanding how these engineers look at the pedestrian experience getting from sort of the Manhattan east side of 9A to the west side, where everything is happening in the Hudson. And when 9A was built, things that happen today in the Hudson were certainly not happening then. And so how we can continue to advocate to the city and the state to really look at this through how much of a significant use change there has been. And then specifically through a lens of safety, how we can continue to improve on that. We are following up with them on that list of topics and a whole bunch of others. Not sure if there's anything you want to add on your side in terms of how you found it productive, and sort of how it was really a 360 conversation where I think it brought great value and understanding for the trust as well, to how the agencies can and cannot work together sometimes.
It was a really successful meeting, and I will compliment both the State Department of Transportation representatives and the city counterpart for coming fully prepared and really with an open, I think, mind towards providing information, answers, what they could and couldn't answer, And I think awareness that there are things that they could think about, such as more counts, more data on the bikeway.
Yeah, that was a
and
major, that's right, that was a major factor of understanding use and all of it year round for both city and state factor as well. There's no comparable bike path in the state of New York and nowhere else in the city of New York either, really in the country. So it's one of a kind, which is why we're really trying to understand how the city and the state take its approach to it, all in the interest of better serving the park user and making it safer to get there at the end of the day was the crux of this all. So that will continue to be ongoing. We were happy to have the conversation because it informed our members, and then also we hope that it bodes well for the relationship the trust has with both agencies. The other thing we are undertaking on the advisory council, we have a new working group, the Historic Resources Area Working Group. Many folks on the advisory council are very excited about this, and I'm pleased to say the trust is really excited about this. Team is excited about this too. The idea is, the mission has always been that a part of the West Side history would be told through and in Hudson River Park. And so how should that best be done? We all recognize the limited resources that the trust has to do all that it does. And so the advisory council saw this as a key way to be able to support and supplement the work the trust does. So we have a working group that is going to look at the West Side, figure out what history we want to be sharing, and then more importantly, who should be the voice sharing that history. Because I think we should all agree, I probably shouldn't be the voice for like the oyster harvesters on the West Side. We should find the relevant entity to tell that history. And the same goes for the LGBT history in the Hudson. And, you know, all of the voices that the labor movement in the Hudson, right? Like who should be telling that? And so this committee's job will be meant to help supplement and provide information and direction to the trust. So that way, when the time comes for sharing those narratives, we have a recommended entity to tell that history and a way that the trust can go about doing it. So we're very excited to be able to supplement and not just demand more from the park on this undertaking. So
I should say that I had a special request for the group to focus on Gansevoort as a kind of first priority zone, since we're under construction there now, and there are many layers of history at Gansevoort alone.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, that concludes my report for this month. So any questions, but otherwise, thanks everybody.
Any questions or comments? The history project sounds fascinating and
a lot. And you know, it was interesting. You know, a couple of people were interested, and then all of a sudden it sort of ballooned, and there's a lot of good conversations happening. So we're excited to be able to provide something. So thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeffrey. I will now ask Connie Fishman to present on behalf of the Hudson River Park Friends. Connie?
Thank you. I'm going to start today with talking about volunteering. After more than a year with very few in-person volunteer opportunities, 2021 has seen a great deal of improvement, roughly doubling the number from last year, from about 600 to around 1,200. Though this is slightly, still only half of what we were doing prior to COVID. So we're very hopeful that we'll get back to our pre-COVID numbers in 2022. Friends is in the process of developing a business council where West Side companies from various industries can join their colleagues together with friends and share information about their own activities as well as the parks, and also how the park can play an active role in employee engagement and retention, community service, and provide member benefits through access to corporate leaders in the adjacent business community. This is something that we are working on completing the planning for in the next month or so, and then rolling out in the winter. We had our gala in person and saw a few of you there, so thank you for those who came. It was very successful, with revenue roughly double of that in 2020 when we had our virtual gala, though still about $500,000 short of our pre-COVID revenue numbers. From the perspective of Friends Board, however, they considered it a huge success, in particular as it was many of our guests' first large event back since March of 2020. And the reduced capacity, I think, was extremely popular, since it's a room that in normal times holds 1,000. This time we had 600, and it allowed people a much more comfortable evening. And the program itself, I thought, was really good, one of the best galas we've had so far. Our Playground Committee Luncheon will be held on January 28, and today we began sending sales materials out to our larger audience. Our annual revenue goal for the luncheon is about 250,000, and we're crossing our fingers that COVID won't derail our plans again this January. We recently received grants to assist the trust in purchasing the Waste Shark, which you heard about earlier, the monitors for the Cantina water quality dashboard, which Noreen spoke of, and also some new composting equipment for the Trust's composting center in the run by the horticultural department. We're establishing a dog run maintenance fund for the next year through a GoFundMe style campaign, taking advantage of relationships that we have working with various neighborhood dog owners. Our goal is to raise enough money for a seasonal worker to be responsible for the park's 4 dog runs. And finally, we're searching for new Friends Board members to help us fill what we have right now, which is 9 vacant board seats. As a few of you know from our gala announcement, Diana Taylor will be replacing Mike Novogratz as board chair come March. And if you have ideas for new board members, people who might be interested, please contact me and I can provide you with some background about our board's responsibilities and expectations. I would also like to thank Deb Kuska, who I began working with when she was on 9A, before she was ever at Hudson River Park. She probably is one of the few people who has more years there than either Noreen or I. And so I wish her the best of luck in her new assignment. And that's it for Friends.
Thank you so much, Connie. Any questions or comments for Connie? Great. Well, thank you for all of that good work. So is there any further business that anyone wants to raise? Anything? Okay, hearing none, if may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Great, thank you, Pam. And a second.
Second.
Thank you. And all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Presumably not. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much to all of the board members for your time. And thank you to Noreen and Jeffrey and Connie and everybody who works so hard to make the park so wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you all.
Wonderful, wonderful holidays.
Thank you.
Same to you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
great holiday, everyone.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll
Thank
meet
you.
soon at Pier 57.
Yes, tour.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.